What we have in front of us here is a dress from the early 1830s. It's a woman's dress for evening wear, and we can tell it's from that period because it's got the fashionably wide gigot sleeves and the narrow tapering waist. But what we're looking at here is really the end of the story, and I want to take it back to the beginning, to when this dress was in fact just a bolt of cloth. And for that we need to go back a good 40, 50 years before that, back to the 1780s. The silk was bought by William Carlos for his young wife, Mary Pratchett. He had a prestigious legal job, and it was quite likely that his job would have taken him to London, so it's quite likely that he would have bought this silk in London and had it transported back to Birmingham. So you're looking at something that is incredibly expensive. Sadly, the silk was never made into a dress. We don't know why, but we do know that Mary's husband, William, died not long into their marriage, and she was left with 3 young children. So the chances of going out, the chances of evening functions would have seemed very thin on the ground at that time. It must have been a very hard and distressing time for Mary at that particular time, and no time perhaps to have a dress made up, a beautiful dress that cost so much money. So in 1806, the silk comes out of the cupboard and it's made up into a wedding dress for her daughter Elizabeth when she married Thomas Atwood, the rising Birmingham politician, businessman, banker, a rising star. Again, sadly, this isn't the dress that we see in front of us. We don't know what her wedding dress looked like in 1806. Sadly, we've not found any paintings or diary entries or anything that gives us a hint about what it must have looked like. But the silk here was reused. It would have been quite acceptable for a wedding dress. It wouldn't have been high fashion. Muslins and very sort of flimsy, very lightweight fabrics were very much in fashion. But as I said earlier, clothes were incredibly expensive. Good fabric was expensive, and you didn't throw away something that was good quality. You reused it, remade it. That was quite totally natural. Nobody would have batted an eyelid about that. When she got married, she would have got married in the morning. She got married in Harborne Church, and as luck would have it, we do have an image of Harborne Church, so we have a pretty good idea about what that was like. She would have walked to the church from her house, the Grove. There wouldn't have been a great deal of people at the wedding. It would have been a small affair with her family. Her brother officiated at the wedding. He was a vicar. And they would have walked to the church, had the wedding in the morning, and come back to the Grove for the wedding breakfast. So we know a little bit about that. Sadly, we don't know very much about the dress. The next thing we hear is the dress as it is what we see in front of us, when it's made up in the 1830s. So the dress we see here is a dress for a middle-aged lady, a dress for a lady who's confident in her position in society, the wife of a leading politician, a leading man in Birmingham, attending many society functions. And here we have perhaps one of the last dresses she might have worn, because we know that she died in 1840. But the sad thing is that although we have the dress and we have the fabric, and we can put together some idea of these women's lives, with Mary Pratchett, who had the silk bought for her, and Elizabeth Carlos, who had the dress made up for her wedding, and then later on, when she's a mother and society lady, we know very little about their actual lives. And that is the case. Most women are often hidden behind men in history. They're often hidden from history. And we have to tease out as much information as we can from the objects that are left behind to try and find out some idea of what their lives might have been like.